So with the seeds for Wimbledon locked and loaded for the tournament coming up next week, we did have some interesting results this week and some big changes in the rankings outside of the top 10. Let's go have a look at who won last week because there were 4 tournaments, 2 on the men, 2 on the women's. So starting on the women's side of things in Berlin, a 500 event, Vondrousova got the win over Wong, 7-6, 4-6, 6-2, which was a great week and a great comeback for her after a lot of injuries over the last 12 months. And then over in Nottingham, we had Kessler taking it Yastremska 6-4, 7-5 to lift her first trophy and get to a career high rankings, as we'll find out in a second. Over on the men's side, we had 2 500 events with Queen's Club. And Alcaraz winning that one for the second time in 3 years, beating Lehechka in the finals 7-5, 6-7, 6-2. And over in Halle, we had Bublik taking up Medvedev 6-3, 7-6 to beat Medvedev for the first time, but also get a nice boost in the rankings that will get him seeded for Wimbledon. So a lot of very important results this week happening at events that actually are really important for Wimbledon preparations. Let's have a look at the players that went up in the rankings outside the top 10, starting with Bublik. He goes up to number 30 in the world, 15 spots higher than last week, which means he will be seeded at Wimbledon this year. Kessler, she goes up to a career high, number 32 in the world, 10 spots higher than last week, and she also will be seeded at Wimbledon. And Wong, she goes up to a career high, number 33 in the world, 16 spots higher than last week after making the final of Berlin. Now, she's just outside the seeds, but if somebody in the top 32 pulls out, she will be seeded at Wimbledon as well. Players that dropped down in the rankings outside the top 10. We had Hurkacz dropping down 10 spots, number 39 in the world, after losing the points in Halle from last year. Putin-Sava, she goes down 7 spots, number 34 in the world. And Kalinskaya, she goes down 12 spots to number 40 in the world. So some players there that are pretty good on the grass and did really well on the grass last year, all dropping down the ranks. Okay, let's have a look at the ladies' top 10, and no change at the top with Sabalenka at 1, Gauff at 2, and Pegula at 3. But there was a change at number 4 with Paolini going back up to number 4, pushing Zhang down to number 5. And that is very important going into Wimbledon with the 4th seed, avoiding the top players, or the top 4 seeds, avoiding each other until the semifinals. So a big change there. We had Keys at number 6 with Andreeva at 7, Swiatek at 8, Navarro at 9, and Badosa rounds out the top 10 for this week. So that's going to be the top 10 seeds for Wimbledon in that order as well. And of course, Badosa with a bit of an injury concern. We'll see whether or not she does play. But if she does play, that is the complete top 10. Having a look at the race to finals now, and no changes with Sabalenka at 1 and Gauff at 2, Keys at 3 and Swiatek at 4. Andreeva stays at number 5 with Pegula at 6, Paolini at 7, and Raducanu at 8. Svitolina at 9, and Anisimova rounds out the top 10. So no changes because most of the top players actually lost pretty early in the tournament and didn't really get any boost to their rankings. So it's a bit of a strange one where the best players and the most informed players didn't play well for the first time in a long time. But, of course, Wimbledon and also next week, a lot of these players are playing, so there could be a bit of a change just before Wimbledon in the race to finals as well on the women's side. Over on the men's side of things, we did have changes, but no change at the top with Sinner at 1 and Alcaraz at 2 after winning in Queen's Club. He closes the gap for that number 1 spot. Zverev stays at number 3, but Draper, he goes up 2 spots to number 4, which is super important, just like on the women's side, to avoid those top players. So Draper, number 4 seed at Wimbledon, won't have to play Alcaraz or Sinner until later in the tournament. He pushes Fritz down to number 5, and Djokovic goes down to number 6. Musetti stays at 7. Rune goes up 1 spot to number 8. Medvedev goes up 2 spots to number 9, pushing Tommy Paul out of the top 10 completely, down 5 spots for him. And Shelton stays at number 10 and rounds out the top 10 for this week. So Tommy Paul dropping out of the top 10 because he didn't get to defend that title at Queen's Club that he won last year. So a little bit unlucky there. He was injured and had to pull out, but getting a lot of changes. And of course, with next week's events coming up as well, and also Wimbledon, we're going to have a lot more changes to this top 10 over the next couple of weeks. Having a look at the race to the finals now, and there was actually no changes at the very top with Alcaraz at 1, adding to his total, of course, after winning Queen's Club. Sinner at 2 and Zverev at 3. Draper at 4 with Musetti at 5. Djokovic at 6. Ruud at number 7. Paul comes in at number 8. De Minaur at 9. And there was a change down the bottom with Shelton dropping out, making way for Rune, who jumps into that number 10 spot. So, of course, a lot more points up for grabs over the next couple of weeks, with Wimbledon being worth 2,000 points. Expect this list to change a lot, and maybe even some players starting to lock their spots in for the ATP Finals. So there it is, they are the rankings, and it wasn't really a big change because, unfortunately, most of the big guns didn't do well, or there was a lot of upsets. For the first time in a long time, we've had sort of a week of upsets for the big top 10 players, but they are the seeds. They are locked in for Wimbledon. If you want to go watch that video, we made a separate video for that. You can go check out who is the whole seeded players and also the unseeded players, because there are some real dangerous unseeded players as well. But there it is. They are the seeds and the players in the top 10 going into Wimbledon, which starts next week.